watching HW News. This is me, Anusha. The Arvind Kejriwal government reintroduced the odd and even scheme in Delhi from November 4 to 15. Under this scheme, odd even numbered vehicles ply on alternate days, which will be implemented from November 4th to 15. However, the Delhi Chief Minister did not announce any exemptions planned in the scheme. Speaking more on this, the Aam Aadmi Party government had also announced a 7-point plan to tackle pollution, which includes the implementation of the odd and even scheme as well. Now, Arvind Kejriwal had also said that this move was aimed at combating high levels of air pollution in winter when crop burning takes place in the neighboring states. This is the third time that the Aam Aadmi Party government has implemented the odd and even scheme to keep a check on air pollution in the capital city. Now, we at HW News had also spoken to some environmentalists from the national capital. Let us hear what their view are on this recently introduced scheme by the Aam Aadmi government.
So I think, the fact that pollution has become an election issue, I welcome that entire thing. That, the biggest civic issue that Delhi is facing today is pollution, and there's been no conversation around it by the political parties. So the fact that it's been both BJP and Aam Aadmi parties discussing pollution, that's a welcome move. Second, also the fact that we're talking about pollution in September, before pollution months or weeks have actually, have actually arrived in that sense, is also a welcome move. But at the same time, putting the entire onus of air pollution each time on odd even is a little unfortunate. Because every empirical data that we actually have from several technical bodies that says that air pollution only reduces by 2 to 3% because of odd even, based on the data that was collected in last odd even in that sense. And also, this doesn't really reflect a medium-term or long-term plan of government or of governance. So this is almost like asking citizenry to stop using their car, but the government's responsibility is not just advisory, but is also of action, and that is completely missing in also the 7-point agenda that we're talking about. And also half the points that the government has actually, or Arvind Kejriwal has actually put forth today, this morning in his press conference, are the same things that they've reiterated, that they've been saying for almost 4 years. So sprinkling of water, be it, or planting of trees, all of this sounds really great in yet another 2019 circular. But if you look at the track record, the public transport is still in shambles. There's very little that has actually happened, almost nothing that has actually happened other than electric vehicle policy that state government has actually come up with. If you look at, the metro services for that matter, if you look at burning of waste, like almost 20 to 25% of pollution that Delhi actually faces today is because of waste burning. There's no conversation around it. So there's distribution of mass, sprinkling of water, odd even, these things that fine that there is at least some conversation around pollution for which we can congratulate the government, but the government is also supposed to be the custodian of our environment, custodian of our air, and in the month of September we would expect, or in 2019 we would expect concrete terms, concrete action from the government rather than just only this. And half of these things that Arvind Kejriwal mentioned today is part of the Supreme Court mandated graded response action plan. And if the pollution levels actually peak, he will have to do odd even, because the Supreme Court has asked the government to do it. The ban on firecrackers is not done by the state government. It's actually done by the Supreme Court, and it's the state government that is supposed to execute it on the ground, and there's very little conversation around that in that sense. So, it's good to have air pollution in the headlines. It's good to have air pollution in the election manifesto and on banners and flags, but there needs to be more than this lip service work that's been done by the current dispensation, or for that matter, respective state governments or central government. Because the other issue is of stubble burning, which Kejriwal talked about today. And of course, in the next couple of weeks, we'll actually have all the state governments keep blaming each other for their pollution levels. And when Delhi becomes a gas chamber, it becomes a convenient narrative to blame Haryana and Punjab, where Delhi has its own local issues. Dust, which is almost 25 to 30% of air pollution that we're talking about in Delhi, is not coming from neighboring states, but is actually from local issues. Lack of public transport is of Delhi and not of Punjab in that sense. So unless and until there is reduced politicking and increased political action and actual action on the ground, things will not change. We'll actually see yet another report or repeat of an air pollution crisis or a public health crisis in Delhi.
whatever initiative has been taken, if we can meet even 50% of that is good for us. Where it is before the it is the agenda they are trying to use before the elections. So whatever is the case, but for us, if they can do 50% of that, even that is helpful for the environment. Whatever steps they are taking, whatever promises they are making, if they fulfill some of them, it would help us. This is what I feel. So it does matter to us if they use for some other purposes, but for us the environment is the prime thing which to be worked upon. So we wish that they take it on an urgent basis and they put actions over it. So we hope and we welcome their initiatives, whatever they have planned, because government has a lot of power in hands, and if they use their power to combat such issues, it would help to some extent.
वो चाहे वो छोटा सा टैक्स लगाएं, चाहे वो ऑडिट्स हों, चाहे वो anything, thinking about air, they are thinking about the soil and water. At least they are thinking about pollution. Because if we come up with, they have to think about fundamental changes. Now, fundamental changes cannot be, then there will be a voter backlash. If we think very logically, the entire Yamuna plain should be evacuated. Means all the encroachments need to be removed from there. NGT has already passed an order. All the encroachments should be removed, and fencing and wiring should be done, and proper biodiversity zones need to be created. But who will bell the cat? If you do that, there will be a heavy backlash of the voters, because nearly आपका जो 70% of the population of Delhi is in illegal homes. These are jhoppadis and janta houses which has no basis. 70% of the population is illegally, they are encroaching upon government land. Now, if you remove them or you do something, next year again the elections are due, whether it is the BJP or the Aam Aadmi Party or the Congress. So, whatever stand you take, you are going to lose out. So, my thing is, if you can do little, do it. If you can do 10%, do it. If you can do 20%, do it. If you can do 40%, do it. But for God's sake, please do it. Because after Diwali, post-Diwali, because we move on motorcycles every day in Delhi NCR to water our plants and everything, let me tell you, it has already last 3 days. पहले क्या होता था? It used to just evaporate and it used to just move away, because of the hot air. Now, the weather is changing, humidity is very high, along with the humidity, the smoke is mixing up, and it is already causing a lot of asthma, lot of pneumonia, lot of bronchial problems, lot of pulmonary disorders. You just come and see the clinics and the evening physician, these clinics in Delhi, queues लगे हुए हैं लोगों के, लोग पूरी आधी दिल्ली बीमार पड़ी हुई है. अब मैं क्या बोलूं? These are toys, है ना? आप बच्चे को चुप कराने के लिए खिलौना दे दोगे 1 हफ्ते के लिए. After that, what will happen? And how many people can afford? And how many people can do it? It's not possible. Okay? If these people are doing it, maybe the central government will do something, this government will do something. Irrespective of who is sitting on the chair, he will just try and please the population. But this is not the long-term thing. The long-term thing is you need to bring 50% of the Delhi NCR vegetation cover and under permanent vegetation cover, so that your air, soil and water, everything gets purified, everything gets detoxed. There is no other way. There is no other way. No other way. You can, how much green tax will you put? How much restriction will you put? How many odd events will you put? These are all good for media. They are good for TRP. They are good for making news headlines. They are good for talking about some issues and debating on the television. But ma'am, Nothing comes out of these things. Nothing comes out of these.